Well, thank you all so very much for joining us this morning. For those that I haven't met, my name is Elizabeth King. I'm based in Oklahoma, and I've got a marketing and PR firm that really specializes in branding and marketing strategy. And so as a solopreneur, what I really love is that I get to work with so many great experts in the field. Depending on what my clients' goals are, we kind of assemble the team. And so this What Works marketing series came about because I'm always asked when I go out and when I'm talking to people, they're like, well, what works when it comes to marketing? And it's so different depending on your business and your clients and your customers and your business goals and what you're trying to accomplish. And so it's very customized for every client. But what I have found is that, marketing changes so often, and there's so many different tactics and different things that you can use and you can add into your toolbox. And so the series is designed that I bring these experts to talk about what's happening in the world of marketing right now. And today we've got Michael Fieger with Devil Dog Marketplace, and he's going to be talking about the impact of graphic design, because really you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And when it comes to your logo and your brand, your design has a huge impact in that. And so I'm really excited for him to share his knowledge and expertise today with all of you. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to talk about, all right, so as I mentioned, I love marketing strategy. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between marketing strategy and just marketing tactics. And then I'm going to turn it over to Michael. He's going to be talking about, determining if it's time for a brand refresh. When is it time for you to start thinking about that? Why your brand colors matter, when to use a professional graphic designer versus free design tools. I mean, there's so many options out there now, but when's the right time to hire a professional versus just try to do it yourself? And then common mistakes that happen from non-designers and how to avoid some of those. And then we're going to open it up at the end for a Q&A session. And so feel free to type your questions in the chat along the way or save them for the end. But either way, I know Michael really enjoys the Q&A part. And so we may be going through this and answering all of your questions at the end. All right, so marketing strategy versus tactics. I use the communication process. There really is kind of a very straightforward communication process, but I just call them the 5 keys. And this is a system I use with all of my clients to really help walk them through the communication process. The first key being assessment. And this is where I find a lot of people miss the boat. It's really fun to jump into all the sexy stuff and let's start building a logo and designing the website and doing all of that. But they'll do it before they've established their company identity. So they don't really take the time to say, who am I as a company? Why do I do what I do? What are my unique selling points? And really creating those key messages about who you are, and also understanding who are your ideal customers. How do they like to get their information? What communication tactics are going to be most effective for your audience? Because it's going to be different depending on who you're trying to reach and where they get that information. So taking that time at the beginning to really understand your brand. The next is goal setting. What are your business goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And then how can you use marketing and creating marketing campaigns to really move the needle towards those big picture goals for the year? That way you've got kind of smaller marketing goals that you can measure, and you can evaluate your tactics and see, okay, these messages really work and others don't. And so how can you reevaluate along the way? Planning, that's the fun part. That's where you're figuring out, okay, now that I know what I want to accomplish, what tools do I need to use to do that? So is it social media? Is it email marketing? Is it digital, print, radio? There's so many different options out there, but figuring out what's going to work best for your audience and creating that plan and creating that implementation calendar to keep you on track along the way. During the implementation phase, you're just executing the plan. Yes, you can definitely see along the way what things are working well, but that's where that evaluation at the end really comes in. And a lot of people forget to evaluate. And so, what messages resonated with your audience when you posted certain things on social media? What really drove traffic? What things are really working? And on the flip side, what didn't work? That's equally valuable, because the last thing that I want is for you wasting time and money on marketing tactics that don't work for your audience. So either let's try to tweak that or let's throw it out of the mix. And so those are really the 5 keys to creating an overall marketing strategy. Today, we're going to focus really in on that planning part, which is determining those tactics and how you really maximize graphic design for your brand. As I mentioned, I'm really excited that Michael's here today. So Michael Fieger is a professional visualist. Moreover, he's a results-oriented and highly motivated individual with over 15 years of experience as a digital freelancer. He puts his years of experience working in the field of graphic design to good use, producing a visual identity for organizations that are aesthetically stimulating and easy to recognize. As the owner of Devil Dog Marketplace and a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, his goal is to make it affordable and simple for people to gain access to USA quality marketing solutions and amazing customer service. His goal is to give companies the professional image it deserves at a fair price without sacrificing quality. Devil Dog Marketplace will accomplish your mission with military precision. I love that tagline of yours.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So do you want me to share my screen?
Go ahead.
All right. All right, so I'm not a big proponent of death by PowerPoint. So, I'll go over some highlights, and then obviously at the end, I'd love to answer your questions. Make sure that, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're hiring a designer, you have the tools to make a good decision and good choice. Because a lot of times people jump into their business and they don't really have a plan. And that's where Elizabeth comes in. And they also, start selling without looking professional and being professional. And in the Marine Corps, what they taught me is, you need to show up when you need to look good. When your first impression could be your last impression. So you need to make sure that, you don't have to overthink it, but make sure that you have your foundation. And the foundation is what I do. I look at what you're doing and I make sure that, you have a logo, you have a website, you have a plan, which Elizabeth can help you when it comes to lead generation. So those are the 3 concepts that people really need to think about when they're planning to start a company or when they're already involved in a company. If your company or anyone's company is not generating revenue within 2 months, there's something wrong. You need to go back to the beginning and look at your foundation. So, graphic design, I find that it's a process. A lot of designers, they know what they want. So they'll design what's 85% them and only 15% you. A real visualist will try to tap in to your visual. Now, not everyone can explain what they want. They have an idea, but it's really difficult to communicate. So a visualist will find that visual that you're trying to achieve. Your visual really has a lot to do with the name of your company, has to do with, services you provide and your target market. And that's a really big area, your target market. If you're marketing to women and you have a masculine colors and masculine logo, and it feels really not geared to feminine market, then you're going to not be as attractive. And so that's what a good designer thinks about when they're working with you. And let's see, and then hold on, I'm sorry. A graphic design expert looks at the topography, the motion in the graphics, the piece of design that makes you memorable. When I help my clients create something, I want them to be memorable. And how do you do that? You do that through color, you do that through image, and the word what you are. For example, Elizabeth, she's a marketing professional. So the word marketing professional, is there a visual for that? May not be, but the solution that she provides, we need to find that visual. And that's what a good designer does. That's his responsibility. There are some common mistakes that non-designers make, and I really love do-it-yourselfers because you're trying to learn how to save money, to do it yourself. And then there is a dollar cost average between doing it yourself and hiring a professional. In the beginning, you may have to do it yourself just to get started. But if you're making $200 an hour and you can hire someone to do that one project and it's $200 and it's taking you 4 hours, it may not be the best choice for you. So that's the choice between doing it yourself and having somebody do it for you. So you definitely need to make sure that your designs are readable, they're short, the colors are complementary. And really, people struggle on font. There are hundreds of fonts. Don't get caught up in the maze of fonts. If you can't read it, don't use it. That's the key. So, keep it simple, keep it clean, and don't overthink it. That's the importance. If you're doing it yourself and you're trying to instruct a designer what you want him to help you with. Some of the mistakes that designers make and non-designers is spacing in your design. You have to be able to see what message you're sending. And the size of the font, the content you're sharing. You know how many font designs I see with misspellings? Oh my God. So, that's really important. And it happens, but there's got to be quality control, whether you're doing it yourself or whether your designer is doing it. And so that's really important. There are different places you can get inspiration from. Some are articles. You can go on Google and use images. Pinterest is a great place for inspiration. And then there are sites like Pixel, Vintage, Creative Market, and then I use Google Fonts because what Google Fonts does, it takes, let's say your company name is Elizabeth King. I can put Elizabeth King in Google Fonts and I can see how each font looks with her name in it. And if you can narrow it down to 4 choices, you can narrow it down to 1. And that's, a designer should be able to help you narrow your choices down so it's about you and not about him or her. Now, these are some of the design tools that I would recommend. You can use Canva easily, visually, infogram, and there's a lot of free images out there. But what I find is people are grabbing images that are licensed. There are attorney trolls out there that are just looking for people that are borrowing for good. I use borrowing for good instead of stealing. They're borrowing for good licensed images. Don't get caught. The cost is more than hiring 10 designers. So either buy the license, or like what I do is I provide free images to my clients if they work for them. If they don't, then they need to buy the design, the image, and then store the license. So if somebody ever asks, you have a copy of it. And keep those in a safe place, because the cost of that legal issue is very expensive. When you talk to a designer, if he's talking to you in his language, that's not a good language. That's not a good thing to do. When you speak to a designer, they should be speaking to you in your language. That's a one way to separate who you want to work with and who you don't. If they're using words like topography, alignment, repetition, these are important things to know. But as a layman, it can get very confusing. I talk to my clients, and I always tell, even if you talk to your clients, you should talk to them as a fifth grader. I know it may not go over well, but it really helps build that relationship and not make people feel like they don't know what you're talking about. I went to a meeting yesterday where somebody was discussing profit, and he was throwing out terms that I didn't know, and I bet you half the people didn't know. And you want to make sure you're using jargon that your clients or even yourself. Now, these are the words that if you're doing it yourself, you should understand. And this learning has a curve, and it takes time. So that's another decision whether you want to do it yourself or hire a designer. Now, these are the tips to create a perfect logo. You got to use your business name. You have to use, you can or you don't have to use a tagline. I always recommend it if there's room. And you want size of your business name that you choose shouldn't be like 9 miles long, because when you use it in marketing, it doesn't work sometimes. So, and everything you do in your marketing, you should repeat over and over. So consistency. So when you market your name, let's say it's Elizabeth King, make sure, Elizabeth King Marketing, make sure that that's what you're using in your social media, your articles, your videos, everything you do from a design point of view needs to be consistent with your logo, with your website, and everything else you do. Your website is your hub. If you think about it like an airline company, American flies out of Atlanta. Everything out of Atlanta goes out and comes back. So this is your Facebook, your YouTube, all these platforms need to come back to your social media. That's how you build your brand. You need to find the right designs, colors, images, styles. And the big thing is style. Style, there are 10 variations of styles that you need to understand and find out what yours is. That's what I help my clients do. Find their style first before we go into color, font, words, or whatever. And you have to evaluate yourself whether it's time for a refresh. You look at it And you could do a little survey. You could send out a survey to people in your database, and and there are websites that do that, and ask them what they think of your logo, and try to get a feel from others if you're not developing your brand correctly. And then also, think about is your logo representing the new product or service you're doing? Maybe it represented something else you did, but today you've grown and maybe it's time to do a refresh. Colors really matter, really, really matter. Whether you should hire a designer or do it on Canva, it's really about you. Everybody has an opinion, and obviously, mine is biased. I'm a graphic designer, but sometimes, you need to do it yourself. So use Canva. But if it's going to take you too long to learn it, then find somebody who can help you. I don't think Canva can replace a graphic designer, but it can help you work with a graphic designer. Because if you do your homework ahead of time, when you meet with that designer, they can help you faster if you know what you want. If you don't, then he has to take the time to understand what your visual is. Just want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's design, development, or lead generation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a lot of information in there to unpack.
It is, and I didn't want to read it like a book. I really just wanted to highlight it. So I figured if you saw something that you didn't understand, I'm more than happy to answer.
Can I add something?
Sure.
You really hit on a lot of great stuff, Michael, as you usually do. And for those of you who don't know me, this is not Michael Fieger. This is Admiral Fieger.
He keeps promoting me. I was a captain, general, now an admiral.
But in all seriousness, Michael really knows his stuff. But what I want to say is the importance, in my opinion, and I've fought with this my whole life with many of my colleagues, is that your company name says what you do. I mean, I had a company years ago. It was called Bennett Data Graphics. We were printers. It didn't say what we did. So I changed it, and then we got a lot more response. But that's my 2 bits. I hope you all don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also recommend using a keyword in your company name. That could be one, but there are people that love signature logos. I love signature logos. And so, sometimes people, they're building their brand and their name is their signature. Mm-hmm. That's their logo, and that's okay. Now, I had the opportunity to do Nicholas's logo, but not just his logo. I got to work with like 3 people on his team, and everybody had a different opinion. How did that go, Nicholas?
No, funny enough, I was just about to say, actually, no, you did my logo for my company, which is New Day, New You, and then you did the one for Awaken, another company that we're setting up. No, it's really good, actually. It's getting a lot of traction, and people now looking at the logo can relate it more to the company, whereas before, I don't think, I don't know if you can see that, but that was my logo before, and it was pretty basic before Michael got hold of it. Michael. No, the thing I like about Michael is that he kind of asked the questions that I wasn't really sure of. He kind of dug deep into what exactly it was we wanted, and he kind of drilled it down, and filtered it out until we got rid of all the kind of the stuff that I thought I wanted, and then realized I didn't really want it. And now we've got 2 great logos that kind of represent my brand, really. And from those logos, I'm starting to reinvent myself a little bit.
Yeah. And, and I compare any kind of design work or marketing. It's like dancing. When you're working with a client, I'm going forward, you're going back. If you're going forward and I'm going forward, we're going to bump into each other. So I always ask my clients, do you like to dance? And you can see the response I get sometimes.
Yeah, we swapped with Michael. Sometimes he was a leader, sometimes I was a follower, but
Yeah, no, it worked out great. And at the end, it's 85% him and only 15% me. So if it doesn't look good, I blame him. So anybody have any technical questions, anything that you'd like to know, things that you've experienced that I can answer?
I am with a newspaper, the Muskogee Phoenix. And of course, we print newspapers and then we also do magazines. And it's interesting what you were talking about, developing your logo. Right now, we are battling with some of our clients when they have developed their logo. It looks really good in that magazine. But when you start to put it in a newspaper with a big old honking press, it just can't hang on to it. You know, we have to share with them, you know, like I have one right now, the gentleman, the background of it looks like something from something steel or like the bottom of the bed of your pickup. And then he's got navy blue lettering. And it's just, you know, I said, outline it in white, do something. But, you know, and of course, if it's printed in the magazine, yes, you see it. But when it comes out in the paper, it just looks like a murky box.
Right.
So I would just kind of want to share with anybody when they are developing their logo, think about the different mediums you're going to be using. And maybe have one that stands out a little bit more for a newspaper, but you know, little bitty type and little bitty, you know, the really fancy things looks good in that magazine, looks good online, but when it comes to coming out in the newspaper, it's sometimes very hard to read.
Yeah, I didn't mention this, but less is more. Sometimes less is more. And Nicholas will tell you, I just don't do a logo, I do a brand book. So I do their logo, but I also give them the same logo in black and white. I give it to them in gray. So if they want to put it in a magazine print, it stands and pops, right, Nicholas?
Right.
yeah, you got permission to share mine if you wanted to.
I mean, I don't know if we have the time, but
okay.
yeah, thank you though. And you know, so yeah, having variation. If someone's just giving you your colored logo, they need to give you variations that color so you can use it in different variations. I come from the magazine world. I work for a magazine, so I remember getting those logos and trying to fit it into an ad. You know, so that's why probably I added to my logo package.
Right.
Good question though.
Thank you.
People don't realize that your logo doesn't always fit in every area of advertising. You know, it may look great, you know, on your website, but what about a billboard? You know,
Right.
So you didn't talk anything about file types. And so
Yes.
I find with a lot of my customers, it's as you're talking, yes, you have your color, you've got your black only, you've got your white only, you've got transparent backgrounds. So they disappear when you're putting them into different forms, into different things, as well as different file sizes. Like some of those large file sizes is what you need for print. And then a small file size is what you need for online.
You hit it in a nutshell. That's it. You're right. It is about file types, and that's a good question. And I run into a lot of designers just send you a JPEG or a PNG. You know what I do in my package? I give them from 250s JPEG, PNG, right?
Yeah.
Up to 3,000. And I give them transparency. I give them AI. I give them EPX. I give them PSD. I give them the entire source file types. They're never going to need anything else than what I provide in that brand book. That's the difference between a brand book, which I should have talked about, and then just somebody just doing your logo for $39.
Well, we have a little bit of time. So when you're talking about having a brand book, when you're actually looking at that, what does that mean to you?
Well, I can show it to you if you like. Take me a second, 1 second.
So as he's pulling this up, I had an experience this summer working with a client developing their brand, and that we did the logo questionnaire. We went through what she thought she wanted. It was a consulting business. And when the graphic designer brought them back, they looked like perfectly fine business consulting. It looked like every other business consulting logo. And she goes, I hate them. I hate all of them. And
See,
so what we had to do was kind of go back to the drawing board, and it was, she wanted to infuse more of her personality into it. And so she's got a very strong personality. She loves retro. She loves Art Deco. And so really we had to go, we just pulled up online. We just did a Google search for Art Deco and started looking at fonts and colors and got a completely different vibe. But the brand that we created at the end was so incredibly authentic to her and her business style and who she is, that it was probably one of the most fun projects I've had in a long time.
yes. And so here's an example of a brand book. What I do is I give them their logo, the logo mark, and the logo type. I give them their tagline. I give it to them in full color, black, white, gray, transparent. I give them the color palette. I give them their font palette. I give them even a 3D mock-up like you see behind me, or even something more suitable. And I give them all their source files. So there's nothing here that they don't need. So for example, when they get their logo, you see transparent, gray, full white, full black, full color. So let's look at the full color. See all the file types they get? 500, 250, 3000, 2000. So if you open up with, if somebody wants to upload their logo to 1000, it's going to be the right size. They don't have to resize it. If they want to use their logo, as a PDF, they have a copy of there's nothing that they'll need. And actually the transparent is probably the most valuable, because there you don't have to worry about background, right? A lot of times the background doesn't match your logo, you can use transparent. And I give them the AI file as well. So AI is Adobe Illustrator for less technical people. And that's what you really need when you're sending it to a printer, you're sending it to another designer, or somebody who's trying to maybe they want to make changes to it. So it's really important. And then on the 3D mock-up size, what I do is I show them what their Zoom background looks on Zoom. So I create a nice 3D mock-up for them. So they get on Zoom and they look so professional. I even show them what their business card, their logo looks like on collateral. So a lot of times people don't realize that, when you design something, you need to see what it looks like on a cup before you spend money on that cup, right? So they get everything they have. And then I always say, here's the future. So they get to see what they look like when they have their own retail store, and it stands out, their business card, everything they need, like Brenda says, your logo may not look good in white, but it looks great in black. So you got to give them variations. And if I go back to logo, let's say preview, I'll give them their logo in gray. You see the gray? That may look great in a newspaper, right? Or if they want it in black, look how, let me make this smaller. Look how nice that looks like. That would look great in a magazine. So what it's doing, it's helping Brenda. It's making your business look better. And then you don't have to keep going to designers to have other things built for you. You got it all in one package. And this package is $200. It's just a no-brainer. And I tell people, if you're spending more than that for a logo package, we need to talk.
So what I love about the brand book is that this is where you can take what the graphic does, the professional does, but you have your colors and you have your fonts and you have all of these things. So if you need to bring stuff in-house to make your social media posts and you're using Canva, you can upload all of those logos and fonts as part of your brand in Canva and then create your own, but you're still keeping it consistent.
Exactly.
And so as your customers are coming to you, they're still saying the same colors, the same fonts. It still looks like you, even if you're creating something a little bit different.
Yeah, and you didn't see any social media designs there. So I tell people, this is what you would use in addition to your social media. So if you were doing a banner, the banner is separate, the logo is part of your banner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's important to know.
I feel like we're talking a lot. What other questions do you all have today?
This is Bryant. Michael, as a printer, I appreciated what you said about AI and Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the problems, and you may have mentioned this, I apologize, I had to be in and out. But the other problem that we have is getting files in a raster format, and then they're wanting to put it in on a big banner, and as you grow it becomes very pixelated, and helping them understand the difference between that and vector files. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of those different types and how that applies to between print and online?
Yeah, it's, like you say, printers have their own style. So, I can't provide every file type. I don't do raster, but I do PSDs, which a lot of printers use. And I do PDFs. A lot of printing companies will take a PDF, and that would be sufficient instead of having to do a raster. But if somebody needs that and they've already done the logo with me, I can convert it to a raster really easy. So I hope that answers your
I think
question.
the opposite is we look for vector files because that allows us to grow and expand the graphic without having to worry about getting pixel.
Yeah, that's what an AI file does.
And it's, yeah, AI is perfect.
And that's what I offer in the package is an AI file.
AI is golden with us.
Yeah, it is. That is, I say, do you have your Adobe Illustrator file? And they go, no. Now I have to take their logo and recreate it to give them the AI file. Good question though, Brent. And as you can tell, there's different complexities for different types of companies. Like printers they need certain tools to be able to do their job. Brenda's in the magazine world. She needs certain things from a designer in her world. And then obviously, the typical business, they need everything. So.
Any other questions right now? All right. Well, then I'm going to share my screen again and tell you, kind of wrap up today. All right. Here is my shameless plug. So next month for the What Works series, Shelley Academy of Academy Business Consulting, that's who I was just talking about. She's going to give her perspective on what it's like to create a brand. Because one of the questions I get is you say, well, I need to create a brand. So what does that really look like? So we're going to go through the steps, kind of those 5 keys that we talked about at the beginning, but how we went through the assessment process and how we went into graphic design and creating the logo and the colors, and how that went into creating the website and doing the photography. And so kind of bringing all the experts together that worked on that project, and just to get a little different perspective about what it's really like to walk through the whole branding process. And then I've been doing this over a year now, and so there's a lot of really good topics we've covered. So if you've missed anything in the past, if you visit King PR and Marketing on YouTube, you can see all of the past webinars that we have done. And because I love to network, and there are many of you that I don't know, I would love to set up a connect meeting with you just to learn more about your business and what it is that you do. And if you'd like just to go ahead and schedule a 30-minute call, you can go to my website, kingprandmarketing.com/meet us, and jump right on the schedule. But honestly, I appreciate you all being here so much today. I hope that you have all gained something from the information, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Michael, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. This was incredible. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your invitation. And again, also, if you want to reach out to me, I put my information in the chat here and love to learn more about your business.
So after this call, I will be sending out a recording of the webinar, as well as information about how to get in touch with Michael, and more about that $299 or $199 logo design package that he's offering, which is a heck of a deal. So thank you all. And
Could you, before you run, could you put your calendar in the link, please, so I can make an appointment?
sure, I would be
In the
happy to
chat.
do that as soon as I found it.
Hey, Elizabeth, are those the keys to your new house? Sitting in front of you, it looks like a castle.
I know, right? What's really funny is you'll find keys everywhere. And even people that work with me are like, hey, I saw some really great keys. I almost picked them up for you the other day. I wish I had a castle, but my new house. So you'll notice there's absolutely nothing in my office right now because this is the last room in the new house to have work done. And so it's a little echoey.
A little echoey, yeah. If you send me the video, I'll take the echo out.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
In the chat. In the
Thank
chat. Elizabeth,
Yes,
not in the chat.
it's not, it isn't?
No,
I swore I just put it there.
not in my chat anyway.
Thank you, Nicholas, for being my guinea pig.
No, you're more than welcome,
Thank you.
Michael. And I wouldn't hesitate to recommend you to anyone, honestly. I'll
Thank
never do my own logo now after meeting you.
Well, I miss you. I haven't seen you in any network groups for a while. So
Yeah, no, you know what else? I'll tell you the honest truth. I'm just about to buy a new computer, and before I buy one, I was waiting to get my background with that logo on it. So I thought, the minute I come back to the American networking groups, I'll have the logo behind me.
well, I should go into the computer business because I could sell Elizabeth one. I could sell Nicholas one.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. So I hope it went well. So much to know in graphic design. It's hard to condense it, but your question was really good. So it's file types are important, but that confuses people, the different file types.
Sure.
It was very good.